than that. It's going to start to go in the other direction. Our
All right,
country is
here we
being hit
go.
hard, but some areas have done so incredibly well. We're so proud of them. They will beat this virus. We're going to
How
beat it
much diabetes from
with the
sugar
grit
coating
and
are
the
we going to
heart
get
for
today?
which they're known and for which our country is known. And we appreciate everything that everybody is doing. We pray for Prime Minister Boris Johnson. He's become a great friend of ours. He loves this country. He loves his country. But he loves the USA, and he's always been very good
He
to
loves
us
his
whenever we
country,
had
but he loves
difficulty.
our
He was
country,
with
but he
us, and
loves the
we
USA.
appreciate it. So we pray for Prime Minister Boris Johnson. He's going through a lot. As we intensify our military campaign against the virus, I think that it must be brought out that we have to thank the American people for continuing to follow our guidelines on slowing the spread.
Except for
An
those going to
expression that more and more people are thinking about. Nobody ever heard of it 2 months ago, and now everybody is talking about slowing the spread, stopping the spread.
April, 2 months ago, it's February. You were told at the end
Even
of
during this
January that it
painful
was coming,
week,
and you
we
ignored
see
it.
glimmers of very, very strong hope.
You said it would disappear like a
And
miracle.
this will be a very painful week.
Disappear.
And next week, at least part of next week, but probably all of it. Look, if one person dies, it's a painful week. And we know that's going to unfortunately happen. This is a monster we're fighting. But signs are that our strategy is totally working. Every American has a role to play in winning this war. And we're going to be winning it. We're going to be winning it powerfully.
Bigly.
We'll be prepared for the next one should it happen, but hopefully it won't. Our massive airlift operation for critical supplies, it's called Project Airbridge, continued today as 5 massive flights landed in the
Biggest
United States,
planes,
packed with
huge.
personal protective equipment. And our nation's heroic healthcare workers will be the beneficiaries of that. 27 more flights are scheduled in the near future over the next couple of weeks. The Army Corps of Engineers is constructing facilities that will support more than 15,000 hospital beds to treat patients.
Stay
in need.
hydrated.
So they're building now
Product placement, I
approximately
guess.
15,000. They just completed the
Disney
big
Cup.
one in New York. They just completed and are in the process of continuing in Chicago and many other places. They're incredible. The Army Corps of Engineers, we owe them a lot. What they were able to do in such a short
They're
period
the
of
best
time. They'll build
corps.
these massive facilities, 2,000
There's never been a
beds
better
in
Corps of Engineers.
4 days. So
Bigly.
it's really something very special. I know I was in the construction industry, and you don't see that happen very
Yeah,
often.
you were in the construction
I want to remind
industry.
governors and emergency managers
Sure,
of
you were very
sharing
hands-on with the
real-time data
construction
with
that went on.
us about equipment and their needs is very important. All of their supplies, hospital occupancy is critical. A lot of the occupancy is really getting a little bit lower than anticipated, and that's good. We sort of thought that was going to happen. And we're getting along very well with the governors. This whole situation with respect to talking to us about equipment and equipment needs, giving us a little bit of lead time, so important. All the supplies, we're getting it to everybody like they never thought possible.
Yeah.
But will ensure that we can rapidly deploy federal assets where and when they're needed, especially on
They're needed
ventilators.
now.
We're actually getting some ventilators back. As you know, the state of California was great. They sent some back, which they won't need. And Washington State likewise. And we have some others coming back, so we're using them in areas we need them. We are pressing forward aggressively on the scientific frontier of the medical war.
He says that they're doing that. They're going to do things
companies
with
I've
rapid
spoke
response,
to,
but when
the
questioned
four
why they haven't
leading,
done it yet, they'll be like,
I
"It's
call
the
them
state's
genius
fault.
companies. They're
They
doing
should have been doing
incredibly
it."
well with respect to cures and also with respect to a vaccine that's going to protect us, totally protect us.
Totally
And they have some
Totally protect.
great
us.
potential. It's going to take a little while yet, but they have some great potential, some great
There's
early
more sugar
results.
coating. Add
And
diabetes.
the governor's been working hard, and we are working hard with the governors. There's been great coordination, especially over the last little while. We're giving them a lot of equipment, a lot of ventilators, but a lot of equipment of all types. And I will protect you if your governor fails. If you have a governor that's failing, we're going to protect you. But the governors are working
I'm
well
going to
with
protect you
us
as long as your
over the
governor
last
kisses my ass.
period of time. today in our stockpile of ventilators, and again, we need the stockpile so we can immediately move them from place to place wherever the monster hits. It's a monster. We have
He's a child that he needs him to
8,675
be called a monster
ventilators
for
right
him to be
now
able to
in
understand the
stock,
magnitude
ready to
of what's
move.
going on.
And
We
we
get
have
it.
all sorts of incredible soldiers. Our military is going to move them should they be needed. In, as an example, if we need additional in New York or the New York City area, you have state, you have city, and spoke to Mayor de Blasio, and we really have a great, well-coordinated campaign with Mayor de Blasio. It's been really good. Spoke to Governor Cuomo. It's been great coordination. So if they need something, we have it. If Louisiana needs something, we have it. Same thing with Michigan, same thing with Illinois. There are certain spots that are very hot, and we'll see what happens, but we'll know pretty much. We'll have time, and we'll be able to move it. In addition to the 8,675 ventilators, we have 2,200 arriving on April 13th. We have 5,500 arriving on May 4th. These are ones that we're building for the most part. And we
building
have,
for the most
as
part?
you know, great companies building them. Ford,
Or
General
how we're doing
Motors,
the other ones. We're not
GE.
building them.
We have
Or
really some great
poof, out
companies
of
that are
thin
doing
air.
it.
Poof.
On May
there's the
18th, we
ventilator.
have 12,000. On June 1st, we have 20,000. On June 29th, we have 60,000 ventilators coming. 60. So we have a total of
Guess you
110,000
anticipated going
ventilators coming.
Much
over a
further
short
than
period
April
of time.
30th, then, don't you?
I don't think we'll need them. Hopefully, we won't need them. I don't think we'll need anywhere near them. But we'll have them for the
So the
future,
president
and we'll
asked that,
also
and
be
then
able to
he's
help
gonna
other
get mad.
countries who are desperate for ventilators. The UK called today, and they wanted to know would it be possible to get 200, and we're going to work it out. We got to work it out. They've been great partners. United Kingdom, and
Big
we're
part.
going to
Yeah.
work it out for them.
There's no need for that
So
in
they
that
wanted
sentence.
200. They needed them desperately.
And you just said the same thing
We
again.
now have 10 drugs in active trials, with 15 more soon to
Here
follow,
comes the snake oil
as
salesman.
well as 2 vaccine candidates in active clinical trials.
I like the
We'll do whatever it takes to
hydroxychloroquine.
secure needed medical supplies and
Never
bring
mind
more
that I may have
production of
invested in
essential
it.
medicines
Never
back to
mind
our
that Michael
shores. We're
Cohen's
doing
connected
that.
to one of the companies that
We're
makes
bringing it
it.
back to our shores. A lot of these companies, they went
Company.
a little bit haywire. They went away from this great country and they had them produced elsewhere. So we're going to start bringing them back. I've been talking about that for a long time, not only with medical, but lots of other things. America continues to perform more tests than any other nation in the world. And
Except you're not ignoring per capita.
Because when you look at some of these very large countries, I know for a fact that they have far more cases than we do, but they don't report them. We've performed
Report, I'm sure.
1.87 million tests to date, so that's 1,870,000 million tests. Think of that, 1,870,000 tests to date. And now we're performing them at a level that nobody's ever seen before. As we announced yesterday, CVS testing sites in Georgia and Rhode Island will be using Abbott Labs rapid 5-minute tests. We're down to now 5 minutes. It's a 5-minute test
Total
so that
tests,
people can get the
United
results
States
back
is in the
very
lead.
quickly. And we're
Let's
actively
see if I can drag
engaging
that into the screen.
on the problem of
If you look
increased
there,
impacts.
look, there's
There's
total
a real
tests.
problem, and it's showing up
But
very strongly
Per
in
capita
data
tests,
on the African American
Italy's
community.
first, South Korea's second, and the
And
United
we're
States
doing
is
everything in our power
third.
to address this challenge. It's a
5.78.
tremendous challenge. It's terrible. And provide
For how
support
much?
to African
Versus
American
12.21
citizens of this
per
country
1,000
who are
people.
going through a lot.
Italy
but
has
it's been disproportionate.
doubled
They're getting
the
hit
amount
very,
of
very
testing
hard. In fact,
per capita.
well,
But
we
Donald
have
Trump
Tony
insists on referring
here,
to.
I'd like to maybe have you come up and address that one, and then I'll continue. But if you could address that, it would be great, Tony, please. On Thursday,
All
I'll
right,
be
getting back into
speaking
this.
to leaders and advocates from the mental health organizations all across our country. And we are going to be talking about resources and tools that we'll make available to them. They need help, and it's a big problem. When you take something where it was the most successful country in the world, still is, the whole world is shut down. Think of it, we're down to numbers that are incredible. as I said yesterday, I think it's 182 countries right now. 182 countries are under attack
Everyone's
by
sucking. We suck less.
the scourge, by this
Scourge.
virus.
Scourge.
But as we wage medical war on the virus, we're also speeding economic relief to our people. It's incredible. We just had a meeting that was absolutely incredible with the banks. I spoke with leaders in the banking and finance industry about our efforts to help American workers and employers. As of today, small business has processed more than $70 billion in guaranteed loans and will provide much needed relief for nearly 250,000 businesses already. So we are going to be providing tremendous amounts of money to the small businesses of our country who have been absolutely clobbered, and they'll be keeping open, and they'll be paying their employees, and they'll be all set to go. We're going to have a rocket upward. I want to thank David Solomon, CEO of Goldman Sachs, Brian Moynihan, CEO of Bank of America, Gordon Smith, Co-President, COO of JP Morgan Chase, Charles Scharf, CEO of Wells Fargo, Michael Corbett, CEO of Citigroup, Al Kelly, CEO of Visa,
I'm name drop everybody.
Michael Miebach,
Maybe other
CEO of
presidents did it before.
MasterCard,
I don't know, but
Noah Wilcox,
really is no
CEO,
need.
Chairman of Grand Rapids State Bank, and we had
really no need to do all that crap.
numerous others also on the call, and I just appreciate them. We're way ahead of schedule, by the way. We're way ahead of schedule. The Paycheck Protection Program has been incredible. So based on the incredible success of the program, I'm announcing that I'll be asking Congress to provide an additional $250 billion for the Paycheck Protection, which will help keep Americans employed to facilitate a quick and full recovery. We're doing very well. We're looking very bipartisan. A lot of people want to do it, and the plan is amazing. You know, they're processing hundreds of thousands of loans, and this is the big banks that are doing it, the community banks. But the biggest banks right now in our country are doing it, and they're doing it for a lot of reasons. One of them is they want to help people. The WHO, that's the World Health Organization, receives vast amounts of money from the United States, and we pay for a majority, a biggest portion of their money. And they actually criticized and disagreed with my travel ban at the time I did it, and they were wrong. They've been wrong about a lot of things, and they had a lot of information early, and they didn't want to.
You ignored the advice that you got in January 2. You thought that the virus was going to disappear when there were 9 people had it. It was going to be a miracle.
The majority of the money that they get.
You're still pushing for a miracle instead of science.
$58 million is a small portion of what they've gotten over the years. Sometimes they get much more than that. Sometimes it's for programs that they're doing, and it's much bigger numbers. And if the programs are good, that's great as far as we're concerned. But we want to look into it. World Health Organization, because they really are. They called it wrong. They called it wrong. They really.
As
did
you. As did you when you ignored your experts when you thought this was going to disappear like a miracle.
So we'll be looking into that very carefully, and we're going to put a hold on money spent to the WHO. We're going to put a very powerful hold on it, and we're going to
very powerful hold, not just a hold, but a very powerful hold.
When they call every shot wrong, that's no good.
You're going to kill everybody.
It's a great national struggle, one that requires the shared sacrifice.
He wants to put a hold on funding to the World Health Organization. This man is insane. So many
companies and organizations and individuals, like the banks that I just told you about, biggest banks in the world, they stepped up to help small business. They're big business, small business, small business,
medium business, extra large businesses, medium to extra large, but big businesses too, but small businesses.
When you add them up, but they just rose to the occasion. Everybody's rising to the occasion. It's been incredible to watch. To honor and celebrate the extraordinary examples of patriotism and citizenship, I'm asking Americans to use the hashtag America Works Together. when sharing stories of how we're all working together, getting through this ordeal in a fashion that nobody would have ever thought possible. It's been incredible, and that's why the numbers are so far much better. We want to keep it that way. If you look at the original projections, if we did nothing, it would be disastrous. If we decided to do something, we closed it down, had no choice. It was a good move. That was a good move. The early China move was a good move. The early Europe.
The other moves were not your good moves. Other moves were bad moves. Worst moves ever. I don't like people that make bad moves, and you made bad moves.
But we're looking to have far fewer deaths than originally thought, and I think we're heading in that direction, but it's too early to talk about it. I don't even want to talk about it now because we just want to work, and I think that people are doing an incredible job. The doctors, the nurses, the firefighters, the police, all medical people, what they're doing, the bravery that they're displaying is just incredible. Every citizen should take immense pride in the selflessness and all of the courage and compassion of our people. The workers, the people that are working, and construction workers going into hospitals, knowing nothing about this problem other than it's dangerous, and they go in.
Construction workers still building the wall when there's other things to worry about.
People in really big trouble
Frickin'
right
wall.
next door. They know nothing about it. All they know is they're going to get it done. They're going to fix that wing so they can have more people in there. It's incredible. But this is a national spirit that won our independence and settled the frontier and explored the horizons of space, and that's what we're doing. I mean, this is all.
My God.
This is all new territory. It unlocked the miracles of science, and we're doing.
And now we're going to ignore the science and just listen to my economical experts.
These great companies that come up with cures to diseases, and the success they've had over the last 15 years is really amazing. So I just want to thank all of them. They're working very hard. They're working with UK right now, and the UK doctors, hopefully helping with their great prime minister. But these
so you're going to say helping with one person. Really, we need to have that one person. He's my friend, my only friend I have left.
Staring us right in the face. I think we're going to have something that's going to be great in terms of vaccines and in terms of everything else that they're doing. Just helping, really helping us, helping the people of our country, and helping ultimately the people of the world. So I want to thank you all for being here. I will take some questions, and then I'm going to give it over to the Vice President, and they're going to go into great detail onto what we're doing and all of the successful supplies and medical equipment that we're getting.
All
of the ventilators, I've said it, but you can go over it in more detail if you'd like. But we're taking in and building thousands and thousands of ventilators, and they're very high quality. I said you got to go for the quality, and these are quality companies doing it. So because there is a big difference between a good ventilator and a not so good ventilator, Tony, right? We've seen that.
What?
And big difference.
Yeah, you said the not so good ones in California, they had to fix them.
The acting Navy Secretary submitted his resignation today, Mobley. Why did that become necessary, and what role did you have in this, sir?
Well, I had no role in it. I've heard, I don't know him, but I've heard he was a very good man. And the whole thing was a very unfortunate. The captain should not have written a letter. He didn't have to be Ernest Hemingway. He made a mistake, but he had a bad day.
He didn't have to write a letter. He wrote a letter to his superiors.
Bad things happen.
That somebody
made a mistake.
Leaked the media.
But you know, you shouldn't be writing letters, and
maybe
you're in the military. You're the captain of a great ship, and you shouldn't be writing letters and sending them to many people. And then it gets out to the media. And you know, the question is, how did it get out to the media? So
that's
the
question.
Things happened there.
He stumbled on the right question.
I had heard he did because he didn't want to cause any disturbance for our country. So that was because he wouldn't have had to resign. I would not have asked him. I don't know him. I didn't speak to him, but he did that, I think, just to end that problem. And I think in really many ways that was a very unselfish thing for him to do.
What should happen now to Commander Crozier, who left?
Well, they're going to look at that. I think Secretary of Defense, as you know, is Mark Esper, and he's very capable. And I think he's looking at that right now. They're going to just take it under regular Navy channels to see what they want to do. But he made a mistake, but he shouldn't have done that. And Your secretary probably shouldn't have said quite what he said. He didn't have to resign, but he felt it would be better for the country. So I think it will end it quickly. Yes, please.
So, Mr. President, a couple on the economic front. The $250 billion that was added today, or will be added for the small business loan program, brings it to $600 billion in total. Do you think that figure is enough? Might there
we're
need
going
to
to
be more
find
down the
out.
line?
When you see hundreds of thousands of applications, don't forget they're for $3,000, for $7,000, some for a couple of million. I guess one of the banks said a couple of million. So they're for different, very varying amounts of money. And there's a limit on the top, and then there's really no limit on the bottom as to what it might be. But it's really popular. It's hundreds of thousands of applications. They really like it. What I like is it keeps these companies together, these little companies. Just like we're going to help the airlines and the big companies, we're going to help the little companies. And the banks are running. Nobody's equipped to do a thing like that, but the banks are equipped. So the
Nobody's
banks are
equipped to
doing
do
it.
it.
Big banks,
The banks
small
are equipped to do
many
it.
banks, community banks. And they're processing the loans, and they'll be able to watch it and make sure it's done properly.
Talk today, sir, as well about potentially reopening the economy in the upcoming weeks. You mentioned the other day about a potential economic task force. Can you give us some sort of update as to where
We're
that may or
thinking
may
about
not-
that, but we want to open up, and we want to get it open soon. That's why I think maybe we're getting to the very top of the curve. I spoke with Governor Cuomo.
What if there's
and
several
He
curves?
seems to think that he's getting close, and I think a lot of people think that a lot of places are getting close. We want to start hitting the downside, and I think we're going to be doing. This is going to be a very difficult week, however. This week will be a very difficult week because that's the most difficult week when you're at that top position, and we'll see what happens.
It does open up. What can the federal government do?
Well,
Because
the federal
because a lot
government
of
has done a lot, and it's going to do a lot. We want to.
Except it's all
I really
state's
think
fault.
that with the stimulus, we can be maybe even beyond. We're going to do perhaps infrastructure, which you wouldn't have gotten approved before, and now people are looking to do it. And the beauty is we're paying zero interest, or very close to zero interest. In some cases, we're paying actually zero, have no interest charge. And the dollar is very strong, and people are investing in the dollar. They want, the fact that we have the strong currency. We have the currency. Our currency is everything. And other companies, other countries want to be in our currency. So we're getting all of the investment wanting to come into the dollar. The dollar is the strength. The dollar is the whole ballgame. We have a strong dollar. Other currencies are going down, way, way down in some cases. You look at other countries, I won't mention them, but other countries are going down 22%,
I'll mention them, but I'll hint at them.
28%.
They rhyme with
It's very hard for them. That
Regina.
makes it much more difficult with us. Our currency is relatively now stronger than it ever was, or it was
Oh, look, there's my
over the
cat.
last few years relative to other countries. It's always relative to other countries, but our currency is very strong. So therefore, people want to invest. If we do a bond issue to do infrastructure, everybody wants a piece of that issue, even at zero interest. Yeah, please.
Did you see these memos that reportedly Peter Navarro wrote back in January? When did you see them, and how does these memos sort of square with what you've often said that nobody could have predicted this? It sounds like he was predicting.
I didn't see him, but I heard he wrote some memos talking about pandemic.
I didn't see him.
I didn't see him. I didn't look for him either. But that was about the same time as I felt that we should do it. That was about the same time that I closed it down. I asked him about it just a little while ago because I read something about a memo. I said, "Did you do a memo?" I didn't see it. I didn't ask him to show it to me. He said, "Yes, I talked about the possibility of a pandemic." Nobody said it's going to happen, but there is a possibility. There always has been a possibility.
But there was a
People
warning
don't
done,
talk
and you
about it.
failed to act.
But it was right about the time that I closed it down. And interestingly, the World Health Organization was not in favor of
Pass
us
the
closing
buck.
it down. And if we
Pass
didn't
the
close
buck.
it down, we would have
Everyone
lost
else's fault,
hundreds
except
of
for
thousands
you.
more lives. So
Mr.
we did a
President,
good, I did a good thing. Yeah, please.
So at the time, though, when Peter Navarro did circulate those memos, you were still downplaying the threat of coronavirus in the U.S. You were saying things like, "I think it's a problem that's going to go away within
Which
a
I'm
couple of
right
days."
about. It will go away.
You said within a couple of days the cases will be down to zero.
Well, the cases really didn't build up for a while. But you
But
have
they
to
didn't go down to
understand,
zero. You were
I'm a
wrong.
cheerleader for this country. I don't want to create havoc and shock and everything else. But ultimately,
Your job
when I
is
was
not to
saying
be a
that, I'm also
cheerleader. Your job is
closing
to
it
be
down.
a
I obviously
leader,
was concerned
period.
about it because I
Sometimes
closed
being a
down
leader means you don't
our
cheer,
country to
means you
China,
give
which was
us
heavily
hard
infected.
truths.
I then closed it down to Europe. That's a big move, closing it down from China and then closing it down from Europe and then ultimately closing it down to the UK. So, and it was right about that time. But I'm not going to go out and start screaming, this could happen, this could happen.
But you should have. That's why
Again,
you're a
as
bad
I think
president.
a president has to be a cheerleader for their country.
No.
But at the same time I'm cheerleading, I'm also closing
We don't
down
want to see you in
a
that
very
outfit.
highly infected
It's not your job
place,
to be a cheerleader.
specifically the
It's your
location,
job to
as
be
you
a
know, in China that
leader.
had the problems. And we're closing it down, but we close it down
Ridiculous.
to all of China, then we close it down to all of Europe. Those were big moves, and it was right about that time.
Sir, just a quick follow-up, Mr.
Clarify,
President.
Did you just
Mr.
learn
President?
about this today?
Say it?
You learned about the memo today? Just
I
to
read about
clarify.
it maybe a day ago, 2 days ago.
Do you feel like someone in your among your staff or Peter Navarro himself should have told you about the memo
No, not at
earlier?
all. It was a recommendation. It was a feeling that he had. I think he told certain people in the staff, but it didn't matter. I didn't see it, but I did. I closed it down. I don't remember it even being discussed. We had a meeting where there were a lot of people.
I'm
Most
sure you
people
don't
felt
remember
we
lots
should
of
not
things.
close it down, that we
Failed
shouldn't
to
close down
recollect.
to China. But I felt we had
Keywords
to
in
do it.
Washington.
And that was at almost the exact same time as the memo.
If you had read the memo at the time, how would that have changed the steps you took or the
I don't
statements
think it
that
would
you
have
made?
changed because I did. I basically did what the memo said, and the memo was, the memo was pretty good memo from the standpoint that he took. I guess I didn't see it yet.
He was saying that the U.S. warning that the U.S. could lose trillions of dollars and millions of lives.
Well, you're not going to lose millions of lives, but you'll lose plenty of money. But I couldn't have done it any better because it was about the same time.
Could have.
and I
Yes,
closed
you
it down
could
to
have
China.
done it better.
Just last you,
You
so
were
you
such a
maintain
liar.
confidence in him, in Peter Navarro.
Of course, I maintain. He wrote a memo, and he was right. And I haven't seen the memo. I'll see it later on after.
I haven't
this.
seen. He wrote a memo.
It
He
didn't
was
matter
right.
whether
I haven't
saw it or
seen
not
it,
because
but I'm going to say he was
I
right.
acted on my own. I guess I had
But I
the
haven't
same
seen it.
instincts as Peter. Peter's a smart guy, and he's a good guy, and he's done a wonderful job. But he wrote a memo, and I guess he talked to various people about it. But ultimately, I did what the memo, more or less what the memo said, just about the time the memo came out. I closed it down. I took a lot of heat. The World Health Organization was very much against. They didn't like it. They actually put out statements about it. In all fairness to Joe Biden, he called me xenophobic. Like, I don't like China. I like China. I like the Chinese people are phenomenal people. So I was called xenophobic. I was called racist. How could I do a thing like
Well, you are
this?
racist. I
Now,
mean,
since then, Joe said that he was wrong, and he said that I was right. But I closed it down, and I was called names by some of the morning show hosts who don't have a clue what they're talking about. They're not smart people. And I was called all sorts of names when I closed it down to China. Now they try and hide that, the tape of them saying terrible things. But that was a great decision. If I didn't do it, if I didn't do that, we would have
there
had
were, I think, 2 Democrats
hundreds of thousands
who
more people
criticized the
dying.
China move.
Yeah, please.
Nobody
You
else
talked a lot
spoke
about
out
the
against
WHO, and I
it.
was wondering, Dr. Fauci had discussed them earlier, so if I could ask you a question about.
Well, he respects the WHO, and I think that's good, and he's worked with them for a long time. But they did give us some pretty bad play calling.
They've also, I think, given lots of countries in the world accurate coronavirus testing that's been central to your guys' data modeling and so.
Well, that I don't know. I can only say that with regard to us, they're taking a lot of heat because they didn't want the borders closed. They called it wrong. They really called, I would say, every aspect of it wrong. Until
The funding freeze
I'm
does
not happy about it. Look, we fund it. Take a look. I mean, go through step by step. They said there's no big deal, there's no big problem, there's no nothing.
You're going to take away funding from them
And then
because they
ultimately,
hurt
when
your
I closed
feelings.
it down, they actually said that
Because
I
you
made a
are
mistake
a
in closing it down, and it turned out
childish,
to be right.
immature,
And at the time, they did that. So we're just going to take a
egotistical,
look at it. We fund it, and
full
and
of
they seem
yourself,
to be
blowhard.
I said recently in
Fragile.
social media, I said they seem to be very
What other words
China-centric.
can I use?
That's a nice way of saying it. But they
That's
seem to
not
be
a
very
nice way of saying
China-centric.
it, idiot.
And they
advisors
seem
are
to
telling you
err
that.
always on the side of China. And we fund it. so I want to look into it. Yes, please.
Thanks. A quick follow-up on that. So is it time to freeze funding to the WHO during a pandemic?
No, maybe
Thank
not.
you.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but we're going to look at it.
You did say that.
We give a tremendous, no, I didn't. I said we're going to look at it. We're going to investigate it. We're going to look at it. But we
He
will
did
look at
say that he
Indian
was going
funding.
to. If you rewind this video, you'll probably
Because
see
you know
him
what? They called
saying,
it wrong.
we're going to
and
defund them.
If you
We're going
look
to take
back
money
over
away
the
from them.
years even, they're very much, everything seems to be very biased toward China. That's not right.
I wanted to follow up. You talked about African Americans and how they've been disproportionately affected by the coronavirus.
Seems to be, unfortunately.
Do you plan on requiring the CDC, any federal agencies or state agents, public places doing tests, and private companies doing tests to collect that data
Yep.
on the race of the people being tested and the race of the people being treated and the
Well,
outcomes?
we're seeing tremendous
I don't see
evidence
race,
that
except for
African
the Central Park
Americans are
5.
affected at a far greater percentage number than other citizens of our country, because we're dealing with our country. Now we're looking at it from a worldwide standpoint. Tony Fauci is looking at it very strongly, but these numbers have started to come out, and
They're huge.
they're very strong, and they're pretty obvious. I
Strong.
mean,
You will
you're
release
talking
that,
about.
but you will release that
Sue, would you like to
publicly?
talk about that for a second, please?
I think one of the things that we're going to be doing with our Medicare data is to do that analysis. We're going to look back at the last month or so and look at, related type illnesses going forward. We now have a code for coronavirus, so we can actually stratify by demographic information, so we can look at race as a factor. We can also look at what the underlying health issues are as well. So we'll be providing that data very shortly, but we will be doing that analysis.
We're working on that very hard. This is something that's come up over the last, I hadn't heard this, and then over the last few days, this has come up more and
Of
more.
course you haven't heard it.
And
You don't
I
care.
don't mean by a little bit. I mean many times. It's a real thing. Now, we want to find cures. We want to find therapeutics. We want to find vaccines, because that will solve everybody's problem. But why is it that the African American community is so much, numerous times more than everybody else? And we want to find the reason to it. And Dr. Fauci, Seema, both of them, and others are working on this. And they're going to have very good, I would say over the next, in less than a week, I think you're going to have very good statistics. Couple of
Do
days.
something
2 days.
specifically
A week.
aimed at those
2 days.
communities that are being hard hit, those black communities
Well,
that are
we're
being hard
helping
hit.
them a lot.
How?
But what's happening is we're trying to find out why is it that it's 3 and 4 times. Now, maybe that's not going to be the final number, but why is it 3 or 4 times more so for
Because you
the
have
black
a
community as
systemic
opposed to
racism in this
other
country.
people? It doesn't
that
make sense, and I
makes
don't like it. And
Black people
we're
more
going
likely
to
to
have
be poor, which
statistics over
makes
the next probably
them
2 to
less
3
likely to be
days.
able to access health care, which means they're less likely to be able to have the needs to go on.
Thank you. I'd
They'd
like
be
to
less
ask a
likely
question
to
on
be
behalf
able
of
to
myself and a colleague
stay
who
at home
couldn't be
without
here due to
working.
social distancing. Thank you.
Who are you with? Who?
took your
With
pen
Hearst
out of your ass.
Newspapers, I'm the print cooler today. Thank you. Some banks are only providing Paycheck Protection Program loans to clients with whom they have existing banking relationships. And you spoke to banking CEOs today. I wonder if
I
you'll ask them, these lenders, to accept applications from all small businesses,
Sure.
not just the businesses with whom they have existing
Okay, they'll be doing that,
relationships.
but we're also working with small community banks, so they will be doing that. It's a question I've already spoken about. I mean, in many cases, they have long-term relationships with thousands of companies. I was amazed to see how many, you saw the number of applications. It's hundreds of thousands. It's a lot of work, but.
It's
I
a lot
did
of
ask that
thousands,
question, and they
the
are
most
working on it.
thousands.
Thank you. And my second question from a colleague is Congressman Jerry Connolly, a Democrat from Northern Virginia, told the local DC CBS station that you personally requested the CARES Act stimulus bill be stripped of $25 billion for the Postal Service. Connolly claims that unless the USPS gets that $25 billion, the agency will be run out of money by June. He accuses you of hastening the demise of the Postal Service. Could you
Well, the
respond to
biggest,
that, please?
I'm the reason the Postal Service has lost billions of dollars every year for many,
The
many years.
Postal
I'm
Service,
the
because
demise
of the
new
Republican
one.
Party,
I'm now the demise of the
is
Postal Service. I'll tell you
it's
who's
not
the
Trump's
demise of
fault.
the Postal
The
Service.
Republican
are
Party,
these
though, did
internet
try and
companies
force
that
the
give
Postal
their
Service
stuff
to
the
fully
Postal
fund
Service
all
packages.
future
And I don't know
liabilities
why they're not, I
way
don't run
beyond
the
any
Postal
other
Service. You have a
corporation
group
is
of
required
people,
to fully
so-called
fund.
independent
So
people,
they are required to
and
have
they
so
run it.
much more money
But
out
these
there
packages
that
are
it's unfair. It's
They
unrealistic.
lose money every time they deliver a package for Amazon or these other internet companies, these other companies that deliver. They drop everything in the post office. They say, you deliver it. And if they'd raise the prices by actually a lot,
How it works.
then you'd find out
He's
that
back
the
to
post
this
office
lie
could
again.
make money or break even. But they don't do that. And I'm trying
He
to
is
figure
back to
out
this
why.
lie again.
These are independent boards. They were appointed by other administrations. They're sort of long-term. They're there for a long time. And I've been talking to them also. You can look it up. Take a look. They have to raise the prices to these companies that walk in and drop thousands of packages on the floor of the
They
post
probably
office
negotiated a
and say
deal to have
deliver it.
bulk.
And they make money, but the post office gets killed. Okay? So they ought to do that,
Post
and
office
we're
getting
looking
killed
into it,
because
and
of
we've
the
been pushing them
unfunded
now for over a
liabilities of the
year.
The requirement
And you know
to
that
fund
because
their
you've seen
future
the stories.
liabilities
I'm
for
pushing them.
pensions and healthcare.
It's not fair for them to.
That's why the post office
These
is
great,
struggling.
wonderful modern companies, they walk into our old post office with all these routes that could never be built. You could never build them. They go into areas that you could never do. And they say, here, deliver this. And they lose a lot of money per package. And they have to raise their prices, but this postal commission doesn't do it. Now, we just got a chance to appoint a couple of people onto the commission, as I understand it, and that's good. But they have to raise their prices, otherwise they're just
How
going to
about we
lose a
take
lot
away
of
the
money. And tell
requirements
your
for the
Democrat
unfunded
friend that
liabilities?
he ought to focus on that, because if he focused on that, he could truly save the post office. Post office has been losing billions of dollars a year for many, many years. And have him take a look at that, because that's the way to solve the problem.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
please,
Mr. President. Thank you so much. Mr. President, you say this week will be very painful, very difficult, but a few weeks ago you say this was just like a flu. What have you learned?
I didn't say 2 weeks ago was a flu.
The question
Can I
is,
tell you
Mr.
what?
President, what
Excuse
have
me.
you learned
You're
that
very
you could
nasty
offer
woman.
as an advice
I tell you, you're
to foreign
nasty.
leaders who
You're
still are
lying,
skeptical
you're doing a
about
Lugenpress.
this pandemic and who are against social distancing? What is your advice? What have you learned?
You said I said it was just like a flu. So, the worst pandemic we ever had in this world was a flu, and it was called, you know that, it was in 1917, 1918, and anywhere from 50 to 100 million people died. That was a flu, okay? So you could say that I said it was a flu, or you could say the flu is nothing to sneeze at.
Then what can you
But,
offer as an advice to foreign leaders who are skeptical about this pandemic and who are against social distancing?
Well, I think there aren't too many of them. If you look throughout the world, and everyone,
there
just
are.
about everyone that has practiced that is now closing up. Well, the UK was an example. Now, they talk about Sweden, but Sweden is suffering very gravely. You know that, right? Sweden did that. The herd, they call it the herd. Sweden's suffering very, very badly. It's a way of doing it, but everybody has been watching everybody else. And so far, almost every country has done it the way we've done it. We've chosen to do it. If we didn't do it that way, we would have lost hundreds of thousands of more people. Okay.
Mr. President, there's voting going on today in Wisconsin. There are reports of thousands of people waiting in hours-long lines as they've had to weigh their own personal health and their civic responsibility. Do you think that the Supreme Court was right in its decision that voting should go forward and the absentee extension should not take place?
Yeah. Look,
Of course, they're all right.
the Supreme
Somebody-
Court, of course they were right, because what the Democrats wanted, and you know what this happened, I supported a man named Justice Kelly, who's Daniel Kelly, highly respected.
They were right
justice.
because they're helping my
And
person win.
I supported him just the other day, social media. I know of him. He's just a fantastic justice. And I endorsed him. And as soon as I endorsed him, they wanted to move the election. They didn't want to move the election. As soon as I endorsed him,
Causation isn't
the
correlation.
Wisconsin Democrats say, "Oh, let's move the election to."
Just
2
because
months
you did
later.
that, it's
They
not
did
why
not
they're
have an
saying let's
election until
move
I
it back.
endorsed
They
him,
move it back
which
because
is
of
very
the
interesting.
virus.
Now they talk about
Not because of
safety,
your
safety.
stupid
Well,
endorsement.
it was 15 minutes after I put out an endorsement
Probably
that they
won't
said we have to
amount
move
to
the
anything.
election. They didn't want to move the election before that. The other thing they wanted to do,
They
which
wanted
is
to move the
crazy,
election because the
at
virus
the
was
end of the
getting
election,
worse.
they wanted to have 1
Because you
week
dragged your feet.
for proxies to come in, or mail ballots. Now, mail ballots, they cheat, okay? People cheat. Mail ballots are a very dangerous thing for this country because they're cheaters. They go and collect them. They're fraudulent in many cases.
Where's your
You
evidence
gotta
of
vote.
this?
And they should have voter ID, by the way. You want to really do it right, you have voter ID. But the Democrats, and this was turned over in the Supreme Court yesterday,
Here
I
we
give
go
great
again,
credit to the
voter
court.
ID. I
They
could
actually
watch
didn't
my
want to
other
have an
video,
election
the
day. They
other
wanted to have
video,
election day.
like 2 days
and then
ago,
a week after
2 videos
election
ago.
day, you
have my rant
choose
about
your
voter ID.
all these ballots come in. These mailed ballots come in. The mailed ballots are corrupt, in my opinion, and they collect them and they get people
You're
to go
corrupt.
in and sign them, and then they're
You're a
forgeries
coward.
in many cases. It's a horrible thing. And so what happened is the Democrats in Wisconsin, they had no problem with the
Washington
election
State does
being
mail-in
today
balloting
until I
perfectly
endorsed
fine.
the Republican candidate, Justice Kelly, Daniel
Perfectly
Kelly.
fine.
And as soon as I endorsed him, they went crazy. They went crazy. And you know that's true. And now all of a sudden, because go back 2 weeks, go back 2 days.
Correlation
They
is
didn't want to
not
move the election. They were
causation.
having the election. They were fine because they thought they were going to win the election. Then I endorsed him, and all of a sudden they think they're not. Now I understand there are lines that go back a long way. I hope they're going to vote for Justice Kelly. Okay.
Mr. President, do you think that Americans should
Yeah, no, go.
With millions of pills of hydroxychloroquine donated, is there a plan or system in place to track the potential
Doesn't even ask.
side effects?
When you saw
There
the
has been
representative,
serious harm, so is there a
Look,
plan
doesn't
to
even
track the
plan
side
it.
effects?
the
outside
side
of
effects,
medical-
the side effects are the least of it. You have people dying all over the
The
place.
side effects are the least
And
of it.
generally, the side effects
There are some
are
bad
really
side
with the
effects.
Z-Pack,
No,
having to do with
you're
the heart.
wrong.
The Z-Pack.
There are side effects
That's the
with
antibiotic, not with
hydroxychloroquine
the,
that you ignore.
hydroxychloroquine.
You think there's no harm with
So,
taking hydroxychloroquine.
A woman
because you're a
last night,
snake
I
oil
watched
salesman
her
who
on
wants
one of
to
the shows. Good
pump
show,
up whatever
Laura.
stocks I guess you have in this
And
company.
she was,
or support
she
the
thought she was
company
dead.
that supported Michael
she was a
Cohen.
representative from Michigan. She was just in horrible shape for 12 days, 14 days. She thought she was dead. I think she said that her doctor said she's, it's going to be very tough. She saw me talking about this, and she asked her husband to go to the drugstore. Now, this is a Democrat representative, a person that, perhaps wouldn't be voting for me. I think she'll be voting for me now, even if she's a Democrat, even if she's a Democrat
Probably not.
representative. And they went to the store, which I made available because we have millions of doses. We have, I think, 29 million doses of this drug.
And watch people who
And
needed to have lupus and
she asked her husband, she
sensitive
said,
malaria
please go out.
are going to
I'm
not
not
be
going to
able
make
to
it.
have it
Please, you
because
have to
you're
hear a story.
stockpiling
Please
this
go
drug.
out, get it. He went at 10 o'clock in the evening to the drugstore. He got it. He gave it to her. Now, it's I don't say it works like this at all. 4 hours later, she awoke and she said, I feel better. And then shortly thereafter, she felt great. This is a woman that thought she was going to die. She's a Democrat representative, highly respected woman.
She's probably still not going to vote for
African
you because
American
you're an
woman. I
idiot.
don't know if you saw it. As you asked a question about African American, she was an African American woman, a great woman. Her manner of speaking,
Tremendous
the way she
woman,
told
the
story
best
was
woman
beautiful.
ever.
I asked my husband to go and get it. He got it. She is now okay. She was interviewed last night on television. And she thanked me. She thanked me even in a tweet. She said, I want to thank President Trump. He saved my life. Look, I don't say that happens with everybody, but that's a beautiful story. There are many of those stories.
But there are
And I
other people
say,
who died from
try
it.
Okay,
This is
please.
something between doctors and patients.
If you're in
not
trouble,
the
if you're going to
president and
die,
patients.
and you're going to die, you're not going to
If you're
die
gonna
from this
die
drug. Now,
anyway.
there could be some side effects, but the
The
side
death
effects
is a side effect.
really more so from the
To
Z-Pack.
track those side effects?
No, doctors have to recommend it. I want doctors. I'm not saying, I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying we hear great results.
Second correct thing you said today.
And some people say,
I'm
let's
not
go to a
doctor. That's right,
laboratory,
you're not
let's
a
test it
doctor.
for a couple of
Don't
years.
listen
and
to the
then-
snake oil salesman.
We got people dying in this country and all over the world right now, not in a couple of years. They're dying. As we speak, there are people dying. And I really think it's a great thing to try, just based on what I
Be a
know.
great thing
Again,
to
I'm
try.
not a
Be
doctor.
huge.
And I
Wonderful.
say
It's a
get
miracle
a
drug. Where's
physician's
miracle?
approval.
Come on. Say
And they have
miracle.
physicians in these hospitals,
said
great
miracle
physicians,
yet.
brave physicians. They also say it's good for the hospital workers to take them, that it's, keeps it away, keeps it out of your system. I don't know. but there's a lot of good examples, and we have a 1,500 case study going in New York, and it's almost complete. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Can you
But I
talk-
appreciate that woman. She was great. You have to see it to believe it.
Appreciate
The
that one
way
because she kissed
she
my
spoke,
ass.
it was like
Anybody who kisses my ass is
miracle.
good by me.
And this was not a fan of mine, but she's a fan of mine now, and I'm very honored by it. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Can you talk about your decision to remove Glenn Fine from the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee? And does that move and some of the criticism you've leveled at IGs, how does the American public have confidence that there'll be oversight?
Well, we have a lot of IGs in from the Obama era, and as you know, it's a presidential decision. And I left them largely. I mean, changed some, but I left them. But when we have, reports of bias, and when we have different things coming in, I don't know Fine. I don't think I ever met Fine. I heard the name.
Wasn't it Obama?
I heard the name. I don't know where he is. Maybe he was from Clinton. Okay, you check that out. Okay, maybe he's from Clinton. But we did change him. But we changed a number. We have about 7 nominations in, I believe. We put 7 very, very highly qualified people for the IG position. And, that's a decision that I could have made 3 years ago, and I could have made 2 years ago. And,
But I waited 3 years
we're
to make
putting
decisions.
not so much for him. We're putting in 7 names. I think it was 7, and they're going in now. Yeah.
Mr. President,
When you talk about the WHO being China-centric, what exactly are you talking about? Is it because China has underplayed how many
I don't
victims
know.
they've
They
had?
seem to come down on the
I
side
don't know
of
what I'm
China.
talking about when
Don't
they
close
say
your
they're China
borders to
centric. I just
China,
say
don't
it
do this, they
because it
don't
sounds
report
good to
what's really
me.
going on.
I like
They
being
didn't
against
see it,
China.
and yet they were there. They didn't see what was going on in Wuhan. They didn't see it. How do you not see it? They didn't see it. They didn't report
Well,
it.
you already
but
said
they
it's
did
an
see- they
invisible
must have
enemy.
seen it, but
That's how they didn't see
report
it.
Please, go ahead.
Mr. President, just turning back to the voting in Wisconsin and those long lines, who will be responsible and who should be held responsible if people get sick after they voted?
Look, all I did was endorse a candidate. I don't know anything
not
about
about
their lines.
you.
I don't know anything about their voting. I love the state. I
To
won
get out
the
and vote
state.
today as well. Will you take some of the responsibility if some of those
I
people
won the
get sick?
state, which is rare for a Republican to do, but I won the state of Wisconsin. I'm going to win it again because we've been great to the people of Wisconsin, as you know, with our policies. And they
Except you
like
don't
me
want
and
them
I
to
like
vote
them. But
by mail because
all I did
somehow
was
you think it's
endorse
corrupt.
a candidate that's highly qualified, very respected person. And all hell broke loose as soon as I did that. And then all of a sudden they want to change. Before I endorsed them, they didn't want to change this voting area. There was no problem with the Democrats voting until I endorsed the candidate. Then they said, let's move it 2 months, let's move it 3 months later. Safety, 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 right? All of a sudden they want safety. Well, before I did the endorsement, they didn't talk about safety. It was fine for months. For months, it was fine. It was always going to be. And now I endorse, and they want safety. So, that sounds.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, how does the election, them holding this election in Wisconsin line up with the social distancing recommendations that have come from your
Well, there you
administration?
have to ask the people that you have a Democrat in Wisconsin as governor. Ask him. That's his problem. Okay, he should be doing it. Again, some governors fail, and I won't let them fail because when they fail, I'll help. But that's run by
They fail, but I won't let them
Democrats
fail.
right
I'll
now.
help. So I'm not going to let them fail, but they
It's run
fail.
by Democrats. You had a great Republican.
Is it possible to socially distance when you're voting? You're going to have
You
crowds.
have to speak
you're
to the
gonna have
governor. What you should do is call the governor of
The
Wisconsin.
buck
and ask him
does
that
not
question.
stop here.
But also ask
The
him, how
buck
come it
stops
was
over
okay to
there.
do
Go
this
talk to
until I
them.
endorsed the
I
candidate?
don't blame
And
me
as
for
soon as I
bad
endorsed
things.
him,
It's
these
not my
lines are
fault.
formed, and I hear Mike, the lines
President
are
is just
through the roof. So,
the least
hopefully
presidential
they can vote-
president I think
they
we've
can
ever
vote for
had.
the right candidate.
Makes you
Yeah,
wish
please.
miss a lot of other people.
Can I just check in on oil again today? I was wondering if...
Oil?
Yeah. if
Where
there's-
is it today?
Well, I was wondering if you...
No, where's the price? Give me the price.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
How can you ask a question when you don't know the price?
I'll look it up.
Is that
for you.
related
Let
to
me
the
do somebody
actual
else's.
price of it on?
So you were highly critical of mail-in voting, mail-in ballots for voting.
think
a
mail-in
few minutes
voting
ago,
is
but
horrible.
you voted by
It's
mail
corrupt.
in Florida's election last month, didn't you?
Sure, I could vote by mail for that.
How do you reconcile
Because I'm
that?
allowed to. Well, that's called out of state. You know why I voted? because I happen to be in the White House and I won't be able to go to Florida to vote. But let me just say,
Well, do as I say, not as I do.
somebody that's out of state and does a ballot and everything's sealed, certified, and everything else. You see what you have to do with the certifications, and you get
Why can't you do that with
thousands
everything
and thousands
else?
of people sitting in somebody's living room signing ballots all over the place.
Who says?
No, I think that
Where?
mail-in voting is a terrible thing. I think if you vote, you should go. And even the concept of early voting is not the greatest because a lot of things happen. But it's okay.
Early voting.
You should go and you should vote. I think you should go and you should vote. You look at what they do, where they grab thousands of mail-in ballots and they dump it. I'll tell you what, and I don't have to tell you, you can look at the statistics. There's a lot of dishonesty going along with mail-in voting, mail-in ballots.
You've encouraged state officials to buy their own medical equipment. The federal officials are kind of swooping in and scooping up those orders.
Yes, I said this
How
last
are you
time.
ensuring that it's
I've
being
been hearing that
distributed
so long.
fairly? And is
Well,
there
we're
more
getting
transparency?
great prices on equipment. We're getting great prices on equipment, and we're helping the states. And the governors are very thankful. Mike Pence had a call yesterday with every governor was on the call, and it was like a love fest. They're very happy.
was a
I
love
don't know if they
fest.
tell that to the press. Some of them don't. Some of them will never say good to the press, but they know we've done a great job. Not a good job, a great job.
Because state officials are widely
No,
saying
no, I
that.
think sometimes it does. And what we say is, let us know, and we will immediately drop out of the bidding. Let us know, and we do that.
Not
and
what
we
he's
drop
talking
out.
about. He's not
Sometimes
talking
we
about
tell them
going
to
against
drop out
federal
because we've got a
government.
good price.
He's talking about
and then we'll
the
deliver
states
to
getting
them.
it and then the federal government swooping in and taking it.
Yeah, go ahead, behind, please. Go ahead.
It's so stupid.
No, not you. In front, please.
Some states have had trouble with getting accurate death counts, particularly because of lack of testing or no uniform.
Did you see death counts?
Yes, because of lack of testing and no uniform system
I
to
don't know.
put that into.
When you say death counts, I think they're pretty accurate on the death count. Somebody dies, I think the states have been pretty accurate.
No
That's a
testing.
big deal, what you're just saying. No, the death counts, I think they're very.
But if
very
they died
I
from
do
the
say
virus,
this, I
whether or
think
not
if
they
you look at
died
China, and if you
from
look
the
at some of these very
like an automobile
large
accident.
countries, when you talk about cases, number of cases, I would be willing to bet they have more cases than we do, but they don't do the testing like we do. But you look at, you look at some of these certain countries, and I would be willing to bet a lot that they have more cases. But we're more accurate, and our testing is done
By what
very
measure?
accurately, and we've got a good process. Did you have one? Yes, please.
Mr. President,
Oh, yeah.
you have been very consistently supportive of a payroll relief tax.
A
and I
what,
know
payroll?
That, payroll relief. Now, I know you're still busy trying to implement
Right.
phase 3, but as we move towards phase 4,
Yeah.
are there still obstacles to that? Because that would put money in American pockets, like
Yeah,
consistently.
you're right. I would love to see a payroll, good questions. I would love to see a payroll tax cut. And I think on behalf of the people.
Does that
it
help
would
the
be
people?
Quick. Now,
Does that
it's
help
a
the
longer
people?
term, it's
Does
a
it
longer
pay the
time because it's
people?
over a period of a year or whatever you want to make it. But I would love to see a payroll tax cut. There are many people that would like to see it as a permanent tax cut, payroll tax cut.
Stopping it from
Well, the Democrats right
Many
now are
people,
stopping
many
it.
people
What are
say.
their reasons?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they think it's good politics to stop it, but you'd get a lot of people, a lot of money immediately. The payroll tax cut would be a great thing for this country. I would like to have it regardless of this, but this would be a fantastic time to have the payroll tax cut. The Democrats are stopping it. But
Because it's
I
not
don't
putting
think they're,
money in
I
the
think
hands of
it's-
the
I think there's a
workers.
certain flexibility. I think it's something that we should do, both for business and the people. But this would get money into the hands of small business immediately, money in the hands of people, the workers and people immediately.
get money in the
And
hands
it would
of the
be over an
workers,
extended
the
period,
people?
and it would be simple to do. It's so easy to do. It's a great tax cut, and I'd love you to speak to the Democrats and let's get it done. So I'm going to give this now to Vice President Pence, and they're going to go over some very good statistics with everybody.
We'll see if I keep this
And
on.
we'll have a couple of answers on that, because we're working very hard on the African
See
American
how they
community
start
with
off.
respect to
We'll
what's
keep it
going
up a
on,
little
because
bit
it's
longer, I
not,
guess.
it's not good. I don't like it. And we're going to have some very good statistics, Tony, I think, over the next couple of days. So thank you all very much. Thank you.
I need to leave and be a hypocrite outside the room now with other people.
Thank you all. A few updates, and then I'll I'll introduce Dr. Deborah Birx to talk about what we're seeing.
Numbers of that. I think I'm
around the
going to stop
country,
for now.
what the
Again,
data is,
if you
telling us. But suffice
go
it to
ahead. This president's ridiculous. I don't. How anybody could say anything good about what he's doing and how he's handling this is everything is passing the buck. Everybody else did the bad things. He only did good things. It's more the same old, same old. It's almost like I don't need to have these every day because he's almost saying the same thing every day. But just in case he says something new that's stupid, I kind of have to continue watching these. So, but stay socially distant, cover your face, protect other people as well as yourselves. Only go out if you absolutely need to. If you don't have things that you need, by all means go out and get them. Try and support your local businesses as much as you can. We are all in this together, in spite of Orange Foolius over there. And just stay safe and stay healthy. And again, subscribe to this channel. Hit the subscribe button and like this video. Share it with your friends. Share other videos with your friends. Check out my parodies that I've written. 3 of them, 2 of them specifically related to the outbreak, to the pandemic. 1 of them only mildly so. Check out my Twitter account @LiberalDanRadio on Twitter, and Facebook.com/LiberalDan as well.